Would be Jeannie Abts. She glows. I first met Jeannie at a women's retreat, can it be 30 years ago, where we were thrown together as roommates and we continued as roomies annually. And she was a good one to have because she could make a mean Manhattan. Jeannie was born and raised in Los Angeles, where she went to the Marlboro School for Girls, which was founded in 1888 and had a mission much like the Wednesday Club, to educate young women academically and to be civic-minded. Her graduating class had only 66 women, so being the extrovert that she is, she wanted to go to the largest university she could find, so she chose UCLA. Jeannie was there for 2 years and then attended the USC School of Dentistry to earn her BS degree. She moved to San Diego in 1967 and had a long career as a dental hygienist, making flossing fun for her patients. Her smile dazzles, right? If you're choosing teams, you want Jeannie on your side. She's an enthusiastic, competitive, and very accomplished player in tennis, golf, and pickleball. And she's quite the bridge player. She treasures her time with her best friend, Rick. Rick is in the house tonight. Rick? Hello, Rick, welcome. And she cherishes her time with her friends and family, which include her 2 golden doodle dogs. Jeannie raised 2 amazing, talented kids, Doug and Amy. She was very active in her kids' sports and madcaps and sat on the school board at uni where Doug and Amy went to high school. Jeannie beams with pride for her family, her adult children, and her grandchildren. We'll hear about Doug today, who spent 6 years as an active duty Navy SEAL. And as she says, all information is unclassified, otherwise Doug would have to kill you. I promised I'd keep this short and sweet, just like she is. Here's Jeannie.
Thank you, Carol, for that nice introduction. Madam President, Wednesday Club members, and honored guests, it is my privilege to tell you all today about something that is near and dear to my heart. But before we get started, I'd like to show you a short video just to get us in the right mood. I'd like to show you the short video. Thanks. The U.S. Navy SEALs are known as one of the most elite fighting forces in the world. They recruit the finest young men in our country. Their basic training is intense and at times brutal, with less than a 20% graduation rate. And SEAL advanced training gives them the skills to operate in the harshest environments on the sea, in the air, and in the land. And that's where the acronym SEAL comes from, S-E-A-L. Once trained, they conduct covert missions all over the world, most of which we will never hear about. And you may or may not know this, but the majority of SEAL training takes place right here in Coronado at the Naval Amphibious Base. So, what does it really take to become a Navy SEAL? I have a little bit of an insider's look at that since my firstborn child, Doug, was a Navy SEAL for 6 years. Doug came out of the womb running with boundless energy, curiosity, and drive. I emphasize that drive. He was always a very high achiever and excelled academically, athletically, and as a leader. He was a great son who was not always the easiest kid in the world to raise, due to that drive and determination. But I did my best, and he actually turned out okay. A lot of this drive and determination was fueled by an early childhood event. At age 4, he was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine, and he actually needed a surgical operation, a fusion in his lower back, and he wore a body cast for over a year. After overcoming that, nothing seemed like an obstacle he couldn't conquer. Doug graduated from University of San Diego High School as the outstanding male student of the year, was voted by his classmates as most likely to succeed. He was captain of the football team and MVP, catcher on the baseball team, and student council president. But these accomplishments did not just fall into his lap, as he always really worked extremely hard at everything that he did. That's his MO. You might recognize the fellow on the right with the cigar in his mouth in that picture up there is our new San Diego police chief. There you go. All right. He was guided to military service by his father Tom and both grandfathers. My dad, Harry, especially, who was just a great model for him, were all in the Navy, along with several other family members. Excellence was always Doug's goal, and still is today in everything he does. His journey as a Navy SEAL is a perfect reflection of that, and is what I will be talking to you about today, my personal experiences going through this whole procedure with him. It might sound like I'm just bragging about my kid, and come on, who doesn't love to brag about their kid, right? Yeah. And I am very proud of him. But this is more to the point that there is a unique mindset that it really takes to even want to attempt to do some of the unbelievable things I'm going to be talking about to you today, becoming a Navy SEAL. The motto for the Navy SEALs is, the only easy day is yesterday. There's a lot of information out there about the Navy SEALs, and much of it's classified. And although none of what you hear today is classified, it is all personal and authentic. The pictures that I'm showing you are from Doug's training and his tours. The stories that I'm going to tell are from the countless conversations that I've had with him over the years, and the many, many questions that I've asked. And of course, if I ask too many questions, he jokes, I could tell you that, Mom, but then I'd have to kill you. Doug attended Stanford University on a full Navy ROTC scholarship. The scholarship was initially denied to him because of that spinal fusion he had as a 4-year-old is automatically disqualifying for military service. So he went to both of his coaches, to 2 of our friends who were orthopedic surgeons in the Navy, and even his congressman, who all vouched for his athleticism and his character, and the denial was waived. However, Stanford ROTC was no easy task, since the Stanford ROTC building had been burned down in the 60s during the Vietnam War protests. So he had to drive 2.5 hours, 2 or 3 times a week through deplorable traffic from Stanford to UC Berkeley to attend the classes. Doug never complained about that and actually really enjoyed his ROTC experience. He declared communication as his major at Stanford, and the Navy kept trying to get him to technical up the major to engineering or something, but he stuck with it. And the ability to speak clearly and confidently came back to serve him not only in the Navy but beyond. No surprise, he graduated first in his ROTC class at Stanford. On graduation, Doug received a commission as an ensign in the Navy, which is an officer. Of course, the only thing he wanted to do in the Navy was to become a Navy SEAL, but that also proved to be a very difficult task. Each year, the SEAL training program takes only 150 candidates to go and undergo the training for Navy SEALs. 50 of them are commissioned officers, and 40 of those commissioned officers typically come from the Naval Academy. So that left 10 spots for the ROTC units across the United States, over 6,000 members. Besides, his mother thought the spinal fusion will keep him out for sure, right? No surprise. Doug got one of the 10 spots to begin his basic underwater demolition and seal BUDS training. Fortunately for us, as I mentioned, it was right here in Coronado. Doug best describes BUDS as 6 long months of hell. His class started with 150 hard-charging young men, each one of them fully determined to complete the training and become a Navy SEAL. And they all knew that usually less than 30 of them are going to graduate. They were very determined. BUDS has 3 phases, each one lasting about 2 months. Basic conditioning phase, dive phase, and land warfare phase. The basic conditioning phase is intended to get the candidates in better shape, but it truly sorts out those who really want to become a Navy SEAL and those who don't quite have either the mental or physical ability to do it. The first 7 weeks are brutal, physically and mentally. The horror stories are endless. The last week of basic conditioning phase is the infamous Hell Week, which consists of 5.5 days of cold, wet, brutally difficult training and performing on fewer than 4 hours of sleep for that entire period. 4 hours in 5.5 days. Hell Week is meant to test the SEAL candidate's physical endurance, mental toughness, tolerance for pain and cold, teamwork skills, attitude, and mostly their ability to perform work under high physical and mental stress and total sleep deprivation. They run over 200 miles in that 5-day period. Divided up, that's 40 miles a day. Most of the guys have a hard time even remembering what day or time it is. They do strenuous physical training for more than 20 hours a day. The instructor's taunting them every minute to call it quits. Oops, I lost one, sorry. One's gone, oh well. During Hell Week, there is a particularly difficult exercise, which would show here, known as the sugar cookie. The sugar cookie is a punishment, but it is not a punishment for a specific mistake or infraction. Instead, the instructors dole out this punishment randomly to see if the trainees can endure seemingly unfair punishment and still maintain their resolve. Wait till you hear what the sugar cookie is. Darn. In the sugar cookie, sorry. When selected, the trainees are told to run fully clothed out into the cold ocean and then roll in the sand until they are completely covered in sand. They would stay in that cold, sandy uniform for the rest of the day, whether it involved running, other physical training, or anything. This is miserable, and getting a sugar cookie is a particularly strong inducement to call it quits. Now, go to this one here. In the middle of the training compound, there is a big bell, and all a candidate has to do, if they are unable to continue, is to go up and ring that bell, signifying that they've quit. Relating to that, and this goes back to the issue of determination and mindset, Doug told me before Hell Week started, "Mom, I want you to know how important this is to me, and I'm telling you, they'll carry me out before I quit." That's not what you want to hear from your kid. During Hell Week, the candidates are divided up into boat crews or teams, made up of 1 officer and 6 enlisted men. One of the first things Doug did with his boat crew is he made them all swear to a personal pact with him and with each other that they would all make it through Hell Week together as a team. They would look out for each other, encourage each other, do everything that they could as a team so that not one of them would ring that bell. Doug's entire boat crew actually made it through Hell Week together, strokes man. At the end of Hell Week, there were only 30 candidates left standing of their original 150. 7 of them were Doug and his boat crew. In the end, nothing mattered to them but their joint determination and their joint decision to succeed. They made an incredible bond with each other that week and are still friends to this day. Oops. You are probably aware that there have been accidents, even deaths, during this strenuous training. I have definitely asked Doug about this, and he assures me that accidents that result in death are very few, but are taken very seriously and investigated thoroughly. SEAL candidates are informed and well aware of these possibilities, yet they're willing, even anxious, to attempt and complete the training because they have an intense desire to serve their country in this capacity, as Doug did. Training is meant to be challenging in order to produce the best warriors our country has to offer, and in the end, those are the ones we want defending us in those extreme situations. During the next 2 months of dive phase, a much narrowed down class learns about combat diving skills. They use a very sophisticated scuba system called the Draeger rebreather, which allows them to operate underwater for hours at a time with no bubbles and no sound. They also learn to dive and hide in extreme situations, and they practice this by swimming against trained Navy mammals such as sea lions and dolphins. During the training exercises with the Navy dolphins, who wouldn't be wearing the lethal gear that they would wear during a real mission, the SEALs attempted to elude them underwater. Doug said the dolphins were so good at detecting them that they won every time, and smacked them around pretty good too when they caught them. The final phase of Bud's training takes place on San Clemente Island, 70 miles off the coast of San Diego. This was our first taste of never hearing from Doug for long stretches of time, as they weren't allowed to communicate with anybody, including his beautiful wife, over that time. They learned over their beach training operations how to blow up underwater and other obstacles, and had endless artillery training. They shot and blew up a lot of stuff. In the end, at the end of the land warfare phase, they have a 5-mile ocean swim. 5 miles. Do you have any idea how long and cold 5 miles is in the ocean? Before the swim, the instructors apparently show them a video highlighting the fact that the area that they'll be swimming through is in fact a great white shark breeding ground, which it is. The instructor's advice to them was, if a shark comes after them, stay calm and punch it in the nose. Doug said that during that long, cold, icy swim, his tongue got completely numb and his teeth were chattering so violently that he chewed all the way around his tongue on the outside and didn't even know it until later. He said it was really sore. Once a candidate makes it through that 3rd phase of training, he gratefully graduates from Buds. But then he attends SEAL qualification training, another 26-week course that prepares them to join a SEAL platoon. It includes medical training, so they'll be equipped to perform emergency services in the field, intense self-defense training, severe weather and survival training, including captivity simulation in very tight spaces. In fact, they were actually locked in a very tight situation for 2 full days without any food or communication. This is the final step of the formal Navy SEALs training. At the end of that 26-week course, the candidates have earned and are given their treasured trident, which is up there. That means that they are SEAL for life. But the end of that training is just the beginning of the SEAL's journey of service. Next, they are assigned to a SEAL team. Doug was assigned to SEAL Team 3, which at the time had a desert focus, which he was really grateful for because he was really done with the cold water environments. In fact, his first commanding officer was Bill McRaven, who is the famous admiral credited with planning and completing the entire Osama bin Laden mission. And he's also the one who gave the famous graduation speech, "Make Your Bed." I don't know if anybody has heard that, but if you haven't, he is so worth Googling and getting to that speech. It is the most motivational speech around naming the things that he learned as a Navy SEAL that helped him change the world. I put a picture of him and some information on the table over there that you can snap with your phone if you do want to find out more about him. Amazing man. As much of what happens to a SEAL after being assigned to a team is classified, you don't often hear much about a SEAL's journey after BUDS, but from my insider's position, I do have a few more stories and pictures, all unclassified, of course, to share with you. Such as jump school, where the SEALs learn all kinds of different parachute maneuvers over many, many jumps. First, Doug said they just learn how to parachute out of a plane. Parachute opens, they come down. Next, they do short free falls, before the parachute inflates. Then they do really long free falls. Then when they get good at that, they do the free falls at night with no lights. Think about that. Free falling through the air with no lights, no guidance whatsoever. Almost made my stomach turn over. They also have pretty intense sniper training, where SEALs learn to make rifle shots that most people would deem impossible. Doug told me that on one sniper training operation, he and his team were to position themselves in a location in the dead of night to be ready for the operation at sunrise. Doug said they all found the location, nestled thoroughly into the ground, completely camouflaged, but when the sun came up, they noticed that they were all completely covered in poison oak. They really paid for that one. They also did small boat training, where SEALs learned to drive and navigate stealth boats on the water. This was a fun thing that happened. I was playing golf one day at Coronado, and I was on the 17th green there that overlooks Glorieta Bay, and all of a sudden, this big black plane starts circling around kind of low, and 4 black objects drop out of it into the water. 3 Navy SEALs and 1 stealth boat that inflated on impact. And they were gone in an instant. You just never saw them again. And one of them actually was Doug that day. He had told me they were going to be doing it, so of course the whole day I'm playing golf, my eyes on the sky waiting for this thing to happen. But anyway, it was very, very cool to see them. They did a lot of training in close quarter combat situations. That's the art and discipline of moving through buildings and ships to complete their missions and take care of the bad guys. You see an awful lot of that on TV too. As an officer, Doug went through several more training programs to learn how to plan those specialized missions. He also attended more advanced leadership courses so he could most effectively lead these very, very high-performing teams. Doug started as an assistant platoon commander, where he was immediately put as second in charge of command of 16 SEALs. He gained valuable experience leading men who were already way more experienced than he was, but he was able to earn their respect by working just as hard, if not harder, than they did. The Navy SEAL officer's motto is lead from the front. This was a pretty difficult time for all of us, as we had no communication with him at all for 6 months and knew that he was doing some pretty dangerous stuff and constantly in harm's way. And he never talked to us about any of the details of his missions either. Also very hard for us, as we were very curious about his missions and what they were actually doing. Want a fun coincidence story? This one's good. Doug's platoon got stationed in Okinawa. Doug's uncle, my brother-in-law, was a 2-star Marine Corps general, and he asked Doug to look up a good friend of his who was stationed over in Okinawa, Father Frank Foley, who was a Catholic priest assigned to the Marine Corps. Les thought he would be a good contact for Doug to have over there. When Doug got to Okinawa, he looked briefly for Father Foley, but Okinawa is a huge, huge base. And he almost immediately got sent off to Korea in a ship. On board the ship, each of the sailors alternately share a bed. One sleeps and the other works. It's called hot bunking. Doug never met his hot bunkmate until they almost reached their destination. They just never crossed. But when he did, guess who he was hot bunking with the whole time? You guessed it, Father Frank Foley. I mean, what are the chances of that? It's the hugest base in the world, and he ends up hot bunking with Father Frank Foley. They got to be good friends while they were over there, stationed in Korea, and here's the best part. Father Foley's next assigned duty station just happened to be San Diego, and the church that he got assigned to in San Diego just happened to be St. Agnes Church, which is our home parish. He ended up officiating at Doug and Carolyn's wedding at Founders Chapel while he was here. Doug was then promoted to a platoon commander in charge of his very own SEAL platoon. This is no small thing, as it put him as the officer in charge with full responsibility and accountability for all of his men. That's a lot of pressure. And they deployed to the Middle East during a much more dangerous time. Though I didn't know what their missions were, I do know that they were clandestine in nature, planned in exacting detail, and executed with precision and swiftness. They were there for 9 long months, and again, we didn't hear anything from him during that time. Everyone on his team gratefully made it back alive, and although they did see some action and one of his men did get shot in the leg, but he couldn't talk about those missions either. But this was kind of a cool story that I can share, and a few of you have already heard it, like Betty and Kwani. I told them this at lunch a couple weeks ago. While they were over there in the Middle East, his platoon was stationed in Bahrain. One of their jobs was to patrol the international waters for deterring ships smuggling arms out of Iraq. One night on patrol, he had one of his support team members film the whole operation with night vision photography. First you see the ship on the horizon, then you see 9 heads pop out of the water. Then you see 9 or 10 of them boarding the ship with the guns at ready, and then you see the capture of the ship. He caught it all on video, and I did get to see that video, but I couldn't share it today. But when he did get home, he shared the video with his commanding officers at SEAL Team 3, and they thought the video was so terrific because it really captured the heart of what they were doing over there in the Middle East. And they liked it so much that they, excuse me, had Doug take it back to Washington, D.C. and show it to the Joint Chiefs of Staff in Washington, D.C. Here he was, this lowly lieutenant, in a room full of seasoned admirals and generals, that his speaking skills and his confidence served him well, and he felt as comfortable as could be doing this. He said the meeting with the Joint Chiefs was actually one of the highlights of his Navy SEAL career. In Doug's final role at SEAL Team 3, he served as the whole team's operations officer, in charge of 8 SEAL platoons around the world. Doug loved this role, and his Navy career was really flourishing, and he was ranked as the top Lieutenant SEAL on the West Coast 2 years in a row. Doug clearly loved this time as a SEAL, but the responsibilities had him gone and away from home about 90% of the time. Doug also knew that the Navy could send him whenever and wherever they wanted, anytime. And Doug got more interested in being the master of his own destiny. He also married an incredible young woman, my wonderful, beautiful daughter-in-law, Tiernan, who's here today. Please introduce yourself to her after the presentation if you have any other questions for her. And Doug and Carolyn were getting ready to start a family. After much soul searching, Doug decided to leave the Navy SEALs. He had owed the Navy 4 years for his Stanford scholarship, but had served 6. For his transition, Doug was accepted to Harvard Business School, where he earned his MBA. Doug is currently the Chief Commercial Officer for Astronis Space Technologies, which is an American company specializing in internet communication satellites. They are designing, manufacturing, and launching the world's most advanced communication satellites, providing communication to individual countries that previously have had very little internet penetration. Doug leads a very high-performing team that has closed sales all over the world, in Taiwan, the Philippines, Mexico, Brazil, Thailand, and is very proud of what they are doing, bridging the digital divide for billions of people needing and wanting the internet. He really wanted to be here today, but his company's major space conference is in Colorado this week, and that's where he is. By the way, if you ever were to meet him, you would never in a million years know from his demeanor that the Navy SEALs was in his background. You might from his physique, he's still pretty buff. But he is very humble and quiet about his achievements in the Navy. Doug is also a remarkable father, husband, friend, brother, and son. He's coached my grandchildren's sports teams to countless championships and is involved in their lives at every level. His best friend still is our very own Scott Wall, who's been to the Wednesday Club to talk to us, and is currently Chief of Police of San Diego. His other best friend is his sister Amy, who is as remarkable as he is in her own way. More importantly, he has raised an incredible family right here in San Diego, where I get to enjoy him and his wonderful family all the time, and of whom I am so very, very proud. In conclusion, Doug has said that his time with the U.S. Navy SEALs taught him so many important life lessons, like the true value of teamwork, of self-discipline, of physical fitness, and of positive leadership. In fact, he also found his professional purpose there, which he says simply is making the world a better place by leading high-performing teams. But Doug says that the single most profound and useful thing that he learned as a Navy SEAL, something that helps him every single day, and something that we all need to remember also, is that when life gets difficult and tough, and you feel like giving up on things that you know are important but not easy, you need to look really deep inside yourself and never ever ring the bell. Thank you. Okay. Now, if you have any questions, Sarah?
One time when I was out on race committee, helping with the sailing race, we started the boats, and all of a sudden, we saw these dots coming down, and we had to stop the race, and would that have been Navy SEALs? They were parachuting down.
That very well.
Right in the middle of the sailboats. I mean,
That,
it was very fun.
that doesn't, I mean, you know, I don't know for sure, but that doesn't, I mean, I would imagine that if they were parachuting down, that's probably, maybe even the part of the purpose was to be doing it amongst, you know, objects. I don't know that, but I do know that they used to, and many people here, I'm sure, have been over to Coronado on the 4th of July when they do that SEAL war simulation thing. I mean, that is one of the coolest things ever. They're shooting things, and I mean blanks, of course, and boats are flying out of the water, and people are coming out of the air. It's awesome.
Thank you I've been looking forward to this for weeks. Thank you. And
You're
thank you,
sweet.
your
Thank
son,
you.
for his amazing service. I guess my question is really for you guys as a family. Obviously, he's gone for long periods of time. How did you cope, number one? And did you ever get any sort of information or check-ins from the Navy? I don't know how you did it. I mean, I just would be incredibly proud, but
Both of us can tell you that we prayed a lot.
okay,
And that's very important.
that works.
Carolyn, did you ever hear from him?
I did, a
I
little
did.
bit. And because he was the head of that platoon, he had a platoon and an assistant commander guy. That commander's wife and I were sort of the contact people for the other 16 in the platoon. So we would hear from, she and I would hear from the guys more so if there was a problem, or just kind of a check-in, like everybody's okay, let all the wives know, that kind of thing.
Okay,
But we weren't getting much detail. But it was nice to even
hear that.
know that he's
Yeah.
alive. Yeah, yeah. That
Thank
was
you
a
again
long
for
time.
for
Yeah,
your service.
of course.
Any other questions?
Hi, Jeannie. I just wanted to say there was an article in yesterday's Wall Street Journal about the SEAL. And he went through the SEAL program, and then he went to Harvard Medical School. He's now just landed at the space station yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I did see that. Wow.
Yeah, so it's very timely.
Yes. No, I did see that and wanted to hear more, wanted to know more about him. Barrett?
As Doug mentioned to you the articles with the outflow from Tijuana, and how actually there was an article that SEALs trainees are
Getting sick. You know what, Barrett, I don't know about that. I mean, something that we haven't talked about. Has he talked about it with you? No, but that's a mess. Think about it. Susan?
With regard to that, a lot of the young men are required to take prophylactic antibiotics because of the excrement in the training waters. And when they move the base from Buds from across the base down to Imperial Beach, that part of Coronado, and they can't use it because of the effluent from the river. So you'll see a lot of the SEALs in the morning in the Gloria Bay underneath the bridge. They're doing a lot of the training inside the bay. One of the most interesting things, my dad and I used to take a walk from North Island all the way down to Gator Beach every morning. We go back and forth, back and forth. One morning, minding our own business, we're just having a nice little chat. And the next thing you know, 6 guys. They came out of where we had no clue they were anywhere near. And they were screaming up the beach at us. Oh my God.
through this when he did, because, which was fully 25 years ago. And the water wasn't as bad because, I don't know if you remember this exactly, but when Doug finished Hell Week, they allowed the families, to come and greet them. And we almost didn't recognize Doug. He had gotten a nick over some rocks and got a staph infection. And his hands and his feet both were like twice the size that they normally were. We hardly recognized him, and they ended up rushing him to the hospital right directly from there, but he made it through.
Wow.
He was gonna make it. Any other questions?
So kind of piggybacking on all this, so if somebody got really sick or was injured, were they able to stay in, or?
In some circumstances, they were able to roll over into the next class. And I know that's actually what Doug had to do. He had to roll over into the next class because he was in the hospital for a couple of weeks, wasn't he? Susie?
Yeah, Jeannie, this is just a fantastic talk. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank
I mean, I was getting teary about the bell thing right at the end. But I wanted to ask, around the periphery of these guys doing this, they had to be nourished. They had to have water. Were there, older graduated SEALs that were kind of watching around the edges to make sure, how do they eat?
They ate in that period.
Okay.
In all of that period, and they had water for sure.
Yeah.
But, and they had plenty of drill instructors. They are all around. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention is that they also have a safety training officer at every single step of the way who are watching for everything and would stop everything if there was a safety issue.
I really enjoyed the project.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you and him, and I just want to know, did you ever try to talk him out of it?
Oh, you're kidding me. I didn't want him to play football either. A lot of good that did me. No, once he decided he was doing something. Okay, I think that's, oh wait, sorry, one more.
I was just wondering, Jeannie, when they come back from 9 months of that intense level of work and what they're doing and what they're exposed to, coming back, is there some sort of a transitional or re-entry? How you go from that to, driving your car to Vaughn's kind of thing? How did they accommodate that?
Can you answer that,
I
Carol?
don't know. I mean, I can tell you back then they didn't have anything. You just got in your car and drove to Vaughn's. But I think now with so much more mental awareness,
PTSD,
I think
that's what I was wondering about, PTSD.
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have more of a
Right.
kind of program
But
set up
that's-
because it is traumatic.
The thing is, again, is these guys are so well trained and so indoctrinated, and and you just don't hear about it. You just don't hear.
I sincerely thank Jeannie for sharing her incredible journey with us. Hearing about her experience as the mother of a Navy SEAL provided profound insight into the strength, courage, and unwavering support she embodies. Her story reminds us of the sacrifices made by service members and their family. Your son's dedication to the SEALs offers a valuable perspective and highlights the power of commitment and perseverance. Thank you again. Debbie Malloy and Joe Lancaster greeted us at the door this afternoon and were responsible for creating the stunning atmosphere. We are incredibly grateful for the amazing effort and skill that went into the patriotic display of red, white, and blue flowers, beautifully complemented by the Naval SEAL plaques. The clubhouse exudes a